Hello friends, have you ever imagined since when security became an important aspect of this digital world? There's an interesting story. In 1988, there was a student from Cornell University whose name was Robert Tappan Morris. He developed a Morris worm, and his intention was just to gauge the size of the internet. But that worm had a programming error, which ended up causing a significant disruption, slowing down the computers and the system across the network. These unintentional consequences highlighted the need of security in the ever-emerging digital landscape. Welcome to your channel, Your Cyberstop, where we are going to learn everything about security in a simple way. My name is Hemant Patkar, your security trainer, and for more information about me, please visit my LinkedIn profile. This is my first video for my YouTube channel, and I'll be going to start the security goals for information and cybersecurity. I'll be discussing about the primary objectives of security, what are the goals of security, why security itself is created. Here I've listed three things. First is confidentiality, the second is integrity, and third is availability. These are the three pillars of information security. It's a CIA Triad. But before we jump into the CIA Triad, let me tell you the difference between information security and cybersecurity. So consider information security as an umbrella, while cybersecurity is a subset of information security. Let me give you an example to make you understand in a much better way. You have your own smartphone. In your smartphone, you have your WhatsApp chat, you have your images, you have your financial data. So in your digital phone, you secure all these things using a password. When you secure your digital asset using a password, it becomes cybersecurity. Now, consider a physical locker where you move this phone over there. This is your physical locker, and you lock it using a physical lock. When you do this, it becomes an information security. So information security deals with all kind of control, while cybersecurity deals with technological control. Your cybersecurity is securing a digital asset, while information security is securing all kind of assets. That's the reason we call it as an ISO 27001. It's not cybersecurity 27001, because ISO 27001 deals with all kinds of control. So whenever there is an audit, it audits everything right from your physical control to a technological control. So the end goal of any information security is to maintain the confidentiality of asset, maintain the integrity of the asset, maintain the availability of the asset. So let's deep dive into this three CIA triads, starting with confidentiality. So you must have seen in government or on official files, they mention it as a confidential document, confidential information, or confidential data. So what does this confidential means? So in simple terms, if a sender sends any data, text, or a message to a receiver, the expectation is only that authorized receiver should be able to access or read that particular data. No one else should be able to intercept or read or access that particular data. If that is there, then confidentiality is maintained. But if an unauthorized person intercepts and reads that particular data, then your confidentiality is lost because it has gone to someone else now. So whatever is your data or information, when it is accessed by an authorized person, your confidentiality is maintained. But if the same information or data, when it is accessed by an unauthorized person, then confidentiality is broken and the information or data is lost. Let's take an example. You have your bank. This is you. This is your bank. Bank is sending your financial statement over an email to you. For bank, you are an authorized user. So when a bank sends that particular data to you, it sends over an encrypted file. So when the encrypted file is received at your end, you open that file with the help of password. So here you get your data which is encrypted, and then you open it using a password. So the confidentiality is maintained by this two level of security. This is how your confidentiality is maintained. If someone else intercepts this, he or she cannot read that email, or he or she cannot read that particular data because it's encrypted. So that's how the bank tries to maintain the confidentiality when it is trying to send particular data which is meant only to be accessed by an authorized person. Now let's talk about the second pillar, integrity. What does this integrity means? So whenever a sender sends a data or a message to a receiver, integrity says that until the data or message is received by the receiver, there should not be any changes even in a bit level. So whenever a sender is sending a set of data to a receiver, until the receiver receives it, reads it or accesses it, there should not be any modification or changes even in a bit or a byte level. If that is the case, then we can say that the integrity is maintained. Let's try to understand this with an example. Suppose there are two companies, company A and company B. Company A and company B, they are having some legal contract exchange. So company A sends the legal contract over an email to company B. Here the email service provider uses some hashing algorithm and converts that document and creates a digital fingerprint or a hash value and then sends it over to B. When the B client receives that particular document, it recalculates its hash value and compares it with the hash value which he has received. When both the hash value matches, then he can say that the integrity is maintained and there is no modification or changes in the document. So the overall integrity is maintained with the use of hashing algorithm. So now the last one is availability. So whatever resources needed by your authorized and valid users should always be available to them at all the times. Now you will ask me, what are those resources? Here the primary resource is your data. Then comes the network, hardware, software, application, memory. All these resources should always be available at all the times for your valid users. Why I am using authorized over here? Here authorized means with respect to your content, with respect to your data, with respect to your hardware, network, with respect to your resources. He or she is an authorized user to access that resource. He or she is a valid user to use that resource. So whenever an authorized or a valid user tries to access his data, it should always be available to them. That's what the motive of availability is. The biggest threat for availability is DOS attack. So I'll take a separate video on this DOS attack, but just to give you a small example of DOS, it's a number of requests which are sent to a particular server, which makes the server overwhelmed and it's not able to handle so many requests, because of which it either slows down or it crashes, thus making the resources unavailable for the authorized users. A very good example of availability is using a distributed resource network. So content delivery network is one of the example. Netflix and other streaming platforms make use of this content delivery network. Now let's talk about principles to achieve CIA. Starting with confidentiality, we have access control, we have need to know, we have least privilege. Access control, for example, there's an organization where we have network administrator and database administrator. Network administrator will have access to network devices and network resources, while database administrator will have access to only database servers and database resources. Network admin will not have access to database resources, database admin will not have access to network resources. So as part of the job profile, they will have respective access control. In case of need to know, suppose there is a Google Drive where we have different folders of information security, HR and finance. You being an information security person will have access only to information security folder, not to HR and finance. So that's need to know. It is applied to an object. In case of least privilege, you have access to information security, but you cannot edit that particular document. You can only view that document, or you can download the document. So it applies to subject. So least privilege is applicable to subject, and need to know it's applicable to object. Now let's talk about the second one, integrity. In integrity, we have few elements like separation of duties, dual control, digital signature, and hashing. Starting with separation of duties, let's take an example. And a vendor is providing his services to one of the organization. That organization needs to pay for his services in the form of check. In that case, employee A would be preparing the check with all the details, then passing that check over to the approver, who will sign the check. So this is a sequence of activity which is being done in order to make payment for the vendor. In case of dual control, it's a similar activity which needs to be performed. For example, you go to your bank to access your locker. You have your own keys, but to open the locker you need to have bank manager also present there with his keys. When both the keys are present at the same time, then only the locker will open. So that's dual control. So there's a thin line difference between separation of duties and dual control. So just try to understand, separation of duties is the sequence of activity. So both the persons are doing different activities, but in case of dual control, both the persons are doing similar activities. So that's the difference between separation of duties and dual control. In case of digital signature and hashing, for example, suppose A wants to send data to B. Both are having the public and private key. What A does is, like, A, with the use of his private key, create a hash value for his data. Then he attaches that particular hash value along with the data and passes over to B. B, when receive that particular data with the hash value, it decrypts the particular data with the help of A's public key. Once he gets the decrypted data, he then compares the hash value with whatever has been sent. If the hash value is the same and it is not changed or not altered, that means the data is intact. It's not been modified while in transit. So digital signature and hashing are basically used to prevent the integrity of the data. The algorithm which is being used to convert this particular data into hash value are generally SHA-256 or SHA-512. So these are the elements of integrity. Now the last one is availability. In availability, we have backup, remote sites, clustering, and RAID. Starting with backup, depending upon the company strategy, you can either go with full backup, incremental backup, or differential backup. Backups will always be saved either physically to an offsite location or electronic over a network middleware to a remote location. You should always have your business data or critical data backed up. So in case of any ransomware attack, your business operation will not be hampered and your services will always be available. Remote sites are the primary and the secondary sites. So depending upon the strategy, it can be either active sites or active passive sites, so or an hot, cold, or a mobile site. So in case of any disaster, be it a natural disaster, your operation or business operation will still continue to operate from your secondary sites. Talking about clustering and RAID, they are the part of high availability. So we have multiple disks which we use to back up your data, and which is used to make your data available at all times. So in RAID also we have different terminologies like stripping and mirroring. Stripping is generally stripping your data into two parts, and mirroring is you're having a copy of your data. So generally stripping is used in RAID 0 and mirroring is used in RAID 1. The minimum requirement of disk in RAID 0, 1, 2 is 2 disks, and the minimum requirement of disk for RAID 3, 4, 5 is 3 disks. So so this is availability, and these are the principles of confidentiality, availability, and integrity which we have talked about over here. In summary, to maintain information security, you need to maintain the 3 goals around it. If any one of the goal is not fulfilled, your information security is impacted. Hence, confidentiality, integrity and availability should always be in balance so that your information security is intact. In this video, we have understood what are the security goals. I've tried to explain the 3 goals in a very simple and layman language. If you like the video, please do hit a like button, subscribe to my channel, and more importantly, share it with all your friends. Until we meet in the next video, goodbye.